had no idea that buying a house during an election year even made a difference. Stuart, I mean...
It's just a trend we've noticed for the last 50 years, and if you look at the statistics, they don't lie. You can go back to 1971 where people started keeping track of mortgage rates, and it's a weird phenomenon. And every 4 years during the presidential election, rates tend to come down.
So let me ask you then, Tony, so how are interest rates right now when it comes to real estate market?
So right now they're about 7.25%, 7% on rates. So yeah,
how is that? How does that compare? Like, is this a good time then to buy a house?
Yeah, I always think it's a good time to buy a house. I'm a little bit biased there, but yeah, it's a good time. And if we look over the 50 years, 7% is the historical average.
So, oh, it is. That makes. So how do you measure the increased activity then?
Well, I look at the activity I'm seeing on my listings and the amount of phone calls I'm getting. And right now, if we look back year over year, April of last year to April of this year, we've seen an increase of about 10% in closed sales.
What is it like leading up to the elections?
Well, we're in January, and remember we had those ice storms and all the trees falling off.
Oh, that's right.
Houses.
Yeah. So how quickly we forget. Yeah, you're right.
So the applications in January for people wanting to get pre-approved, which remember there's a correct first step when you go to buy a house. Ideally, you want to get approved to find out how much you can afford.
Absolutely.
Before you start having Tony take you around to show houses.
Right.
Most people do it backward. Like probably half the people out there find a house, they just drive by and say, oh my gosh, I love that. Can I afford $1 million house? Well, actually, no, you can afford a $600,000 house.
Right.
Let's go show you some of those. So usually people start with the applications is what we prefer.
Sure.
And those were way down in January. Since then, February, March have all been much, much better.